Hi friends, this video is to show you how we are going to create our cultural diffusion maps for Africa. I always say start with the key first. So I have these printed for you in class, but because you're in stations and I have a teacher station, I might not be able to run over and help you. So that's why I'm making this video and giving you an example. I always say start with the key and color code the key. Okay, so you'll notice in my key, all of the ones that were colonized by France, I highlighted red, okay? And all the ones that were colonized by Portugal, I highlighted orange. If you want to use symbols because you don't have a bunch of highlighters, that's fine. But I find colors work pretty easily. But if you don't have colors that you can see through so you can still see the word and you want to use some symbols, that's okay too. I just would prefer colors if you can, okay? Notice that a few of them are not colonized by anyone, so they should have their own color for that too, okay? A few of them are colonized by two different groups, so like Sudan, for example, was Egypt and Britain, so I have two colors for that one. So once you have your whole key highlighted, color-coded, or using symbols or whatever you're using, then you're going to move on to your map. Basically, your key is just going to get transferred over right here, okay? So I just went back and saw, okay, for France, I used red, so I put that there. For Britain, I used yellow, so I put that there. So you're just kind of transferring over the colors or symbols that you use. And then you're going to transfer that over to your map, okay? So if I go back to my key, I know Algeria was colonized by France, so I'm going to color Algeria red. Okay, you don't necessarily have to label every single country. I just did it for an example, but you might have to look up a map of Africa so you're sure that you're coloring the right ones, the right color. It will be easier if you label your map first with each country because then you only have to do it once and then you can just use this and go right to your map. Oh, Angola. If I go here, I know where Angola is without even having to look it up. And I can color that orange because I used orange for Portugal and that's who colonized Angola. So that's kind of how you're going to do it. There are a few that might be blank because this map is new, basically. So now we have South Sudan, but when we used this in 1912, we didn't have South Sudan. So a few of them might be blank, like this one, and this one, the Western Sahara over here, okay? But that's how you're going to do your map. So start with the key, figure out how you're going to differentiate from each colonizer, and then move on to adding that to your map, okay? For languages, so for part B, it's very similar. Again, you're going to start with your key. So we're looking at what languages each area of Africa speaks. And so I just started with the native language was going to be blue. So everyone had their own, who used their own native language. I went through and colored that blue. And then I chose, for French, I chose purple. For Portuguese, I chose yellow. So it doesn't necessarily matter what colors you choose, but you'll notice that most of these have two. Not all of them, but a lot of them have two. Some even have three. So then on your map, you just have to make sure. So like for Algeria, for example, they have a native language and many of them speak French. So they're purple and blue. Okay, so if you use symbols, you would just have two symbols on here. So you'll see some of them have three colors because they have three languages, things like that. Some of them are off your map a little bit, so they might have to be over there in the corner, and that's okay. Okay, so that is how you're going to do your cultural diffusion maps. So starting with your key each time and then transferring it over to the map so you can kind of see big picture when I glance at this. I know that the majority of countries here were colonized by the French and by Britain because I can tell I see mainly red and a lot of yellow.